All right, all right. Good morning, everybody. How's it going? So yesterday we had a little bit of a snafu with the technology, and so I wanted to go ahead and do a follow-up on the remainder of what we were going to talk about yesterday in our group coaching class. So we were talking about listing appointments. So let's recap. You are talking to somebody and it's a great lead, or you've been following up with it for a while. Whatever happens, eventually you're going to get to the point where you want to set the appointment. And so what a lot of people won't do is they don't close early enough or often enough. And so one of the great tips that I taught yesterday that everybody should start with is anytime somebody basically says anything, you can use that as a reason to meet. And so what we say is that's exactly why we should meet immediately. So no matter what they say, if they're like, well, what about this? Or what do you think about paint colors? Or what do you think about staging? Or what do you think about anything? Your response is, that's exactly why we should meet immediately. And the way you say it is like the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, right? It's 100% confidence in your heart that says, that's exactly why we should meet immediately. And they're like, okay, great. Let's meet. And so you can tell them, hey, I can do it Friday at 4 or 5. Is a weekday or weekend better for you? Usually when you isolate one or two choices, that's going to help narrow down their decision making. But at the same time, you can say, hey, how about 5 o'clock today? Or I can be over in about an hour. I'm just wrapping up an appointment. Whatever you want to do. The other thing that I taught yesterday was really always protect your own time. So no matter whether it is a hair appointment that you have to go to, or whether you are going to just spend time with your family and your kids, whatever you're doing, if somebody wants to schedule an appointment at a time where you have something else that you should be doing or that you've already planned to do, just say, I already have an appointment at that time. They don't need to know if it's your hair appointment or with your kids or whatever it is. You just tell them you have another appointment, and that's going to go ahead and make you look busier. It's going to be more professional. It's just going to come off better. So those are a couple things. The other thing is a great script that I love, which is if there was a financial incentive, would it be okay for us to meet sooner rather than later? So if there were a financial benefit to you, I know you don't want to list until spring. I know you don't want to meet until January. I know you're not ready to go right now. But if there was a financial incentive to you, would you be open to meeting sooner? And then every single person, except a handful of crazies, or if really there's like a hard situation, like, nope, I'm not meeting with anybody until we get married, or no, I'm not meeting with anybody until we get divorced, or no, I'm not meeting with anybody until my daughter graduates from high school, well, then that's its own thing, right? But short of that, usually if you tell people, if there was a financial incentive for you, would it be okay if we went ahead and meet earlier? And then they'll say, usually, what is that financial incentive? And then your response is going to be, that's exactly why we should meet immediately. Does that make sense? So, okay, so we've gone ahead and set up the appointment. We show up, we're early. The things you want to do ahead of time, you want to make sure you're prepared. And so one of the best ways to prepare is to look at all of the comps, right? You want to look at the actives, the pendings, the solds. You want to go through all that. One of the best things you can do to differentiate yourself against everyone else that you're going to be talking to is to go ahead and learn all of the comps by name. So if there's a house that was like 3 doors down that sold a year ago, and that was the Johnsons who sold that house, when you go in to talk about it, if you have it all memorized, if you can say, yeah, the house 3 doors down, it's 4 beds, 3 baths, it was about 200 square feet bigger than yours. The Johnsons sold it last year. Well, guess what? Now you are in their circle because you know the Johnsons. And it doesn't matter if you actually know the Johnsons or not. The fact that you can name the comps by the person who sold them is going to make them feel like you're way more plugged in than you might actually be. So that's one really great hack on how to prepare for the listing appointment. But really just figure out all of the information as possible, as much as you can internalize it. So if you want to put together the world's best CMA, if you want to put together all this marketing material and all this stuff that you want to bring with you, that's fine. And I'll talk about what I like to do with that and what I was trained. And my opinion is going to be different than everybody else, right? You're going to have 100 different ways to do a listing appointment, and there's so many ways to have success. But the way that I do it is a little different, and I think it makes us stand out. So go ahead and internalize as much of the information as possible. look up the subject property, figure out how big is it, how many beds, how many baths, when did they buy it, what did they pay, how much do they probably owe on it, right? If you can have a really good understanding of the details that you can look up through public research, then you'll just be fact checking everything with them. So when you walk in, you can say, awesome. So just to confirm, this is about 2,200 square feet, right? Yeah, 2213, whatever. Okay, awesome. And 4 beds, 3 baths, right? Yep. You haven't added anything? Nope. Great. Let me take a quick spin through the house, check it out. They're going to want to walk you through the entire house and point out everything that they did that added value in their opinion. So, oh, hey, we've got this gazebo in the backyard. Me and my grandpa built it. You know, it's worth $1 million. It's the most amazing gazebo ever, right? You really want to give credit and you want to give respect to things that they care about. But at the same time, you don't want to let them paint a picture in their mind that all of a sudden the house is worth $1 million more because of this gazebo that they made in the backyard. So walk through the house with them. Ideally, walk through the house by yourself. Do it rather quickly. Make a note of everything that you need to make a note of. And then sit down with them somewhere that it's going to be comfortable and convenient. So the kitchen table works great. Living room works great. You don't ever want to be where 2 sellers are on either side of you, because then you're going to spend the whole time shaking your head, and that's bad body language, right? So you want to position them where you can look at both people with just a slight shift of your head, right? Shift of your eyes, look directly at both people. And you want to make sure that all of your decision makers are present. So we talked about this yesterday. When you're pre-qualifying the appointment, don't show up if it's just the daughter, right? Who doesn't even have, she's not on title and she can't make a decision for the family, right? Make sure that you have all the decision makers present in order to maximize your efficiency of your appointment. Okay, so we go in, we do the tour, we sit down, we've got the decision makers in front of us, and what do almost all agents want to do? They want to reach into their briefcase and they want to pull out their presentation. They want to pull out their glossy 12-page booklet, their sexy photos, whatever it is that they have. A lot of times you'll see this with other brands like, you know, a Coldwell Banker or somebody, you know, Sotheby's or whatever, where they really rely on the brand to sell. Don't do that. So don't reach in your bag and grab anything, right? The first thing you want to do is you want to build rapport. And so while you're walking around the house and while they're touring you, you're going to start that process. You'll be like, oh, you like the Bengals? I love the Bengals. Like, we're big football fans. Awesome. Go Bengals, right? Or whatever that looks like. If they love to fish and you love to fish, right? Just pick a couple things around the house that you might have in common and start to have a bit of a rapport building conversation around those. The next thing, once you're sitting down, is they're probably going to offer you a glass of water or a coffee or something like that, right? Whatever they offer you, take it. Now, if you don't drink and they offer you a cocktail and it's like 6 o'clock and they're drinking or whatever, like, don't feel like you have to drink because they're drinking or whatever, but just say yes to something. So usually what I'll say yes to is a glass of water. So yeah, I'd love a water. 2 things. Number 1, it gets you in agreement. So if they offer you something and you say no, now you guys are already disagreeing with each other. So that's not a good strategy. Number 2 is it gives you something to do if you need to think for a minute. And so something might come up, they might ask you a question, and you may not have the answer right off the top of your head. And so if you can pick up your bottle of water or your glass of water and take a sip, that's going to give you an extra couple seconds or extra, minute really to take the water, sip it, say, you know what, that's a really good question. Let me think about that. You don't have to know every answer right off the top of your head. So sometimes they ask you a question that you've never heard before or something that you're not prepared for. An amateur in that situation will answer off the hip. They'll just give you whatever random answer comes to mind because they think they need to know. A professional will be honest and say, you know what, honestly, I don't have that info in front of me. Let me make a note of it. And you actually want to make a note, right? You want to make a note in your phone or you want to write a note down because you don't want to forget anything that's important like that. And then you're going to go ahead and follow up with them and let them know about that afterwards. So go ahead and just keep a list of things that you may not know that you need to do a little further research on. Okay, so you sit down, you take some water, you guys are chatting, and then you're going to start asking them questions. So the key to winning any appointment is asking great questions and not just telling them what you do. So if you just walk in and you're like, awesome, this is a great house, this is what we do for marketing, here's my 20-page presentation, da-da-da-da-da, whatever, you're never gonna build a connection with them. And the objective of sitting down in front of them and seeing their home, and they've invited you over, especially during coronavirus, COVID times, like this is a real vote of confidence, right? They've had you over to their home. They're definitely considering working with you at this point. And so now all you need to do is make sure that you build the trust and you build the rapport and you show them that you have a plan. So as long as you can get them to trust you and you can get them confident in the fact that you have a plan and you're going to be able to execute it, almost every single time they'll list with you if you do those two things. So first thing is build trust. You build trust by asking questions. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, thanks so much for having me over. Let's just review again. Where are you going to go when you decide that you're going to make your move? Oh, okay, you're going to go to Florida. Okay, great. So why are you moving to Florida? Oh, you want to be closer to your grandkids. Awesome. How many grandkids do you have? Okay, you have 12 grandkids. Wow, that's crazy. What ages are they? Okay, from 1 to 18. Awesome. So how soon would you like to be in Florida to be closer to your grandkids? They're probably growing up pretty fast, huh? Oh yeah, they're you haven't seen them in how long? It's been 2 years? That's crazy. We need to get you over there, right? And so, okay, so how soon? So they're gonna say as soon as possible. Okay, great. So if I got you an acceptable offer for your home in the next week, would that be okay with you? Now, usually they're going to be like, yeah, I mean, that would be great, but like that seems a little fast. Like we haven't even gotten the house ready. You haven't told me what you want to do to stage it or get it ready for market. We don't even have photos. We're not on the MLS. Yeah, no, I totally understand. And we're going to take this at your pace, but we move really quickly. And so you're probably going to be the one that slows down the process at all. And so I just want to know what's realistic for you. I'm going to go out right now and I'm going to put a video of this on my Facebook and I'm going to start networking with people and I'm going to tell them immediately that we're working together and then I'm going to be, working to sell your house. So if we have that person who just has to have it and wants to buy it tomorrow, are you okay with that? Now, what you're doing there is you're starting to frame and show them that you are ready to take action right away. One of my mentors would actually stand in the driveway and get his phone out and just do like a little video, like a selfie video. And then they'd usually like peek out over the window and like look and be like, what's going on in the front yard? And then you're like, yeah, did you see me out there? Yeah, I was just going Facebook Live really quick. I wanted to tell everybody that I'm over here in such and such neighborhood. And we're actually on a listing appointment. And as long as things go well, we'll have a new property for them to take a look at. And, with inventory being as low as it is, that's a really important step, right? So everything you do throughout the listing presentation, you want them to know that you have a plan, that you understand their needs and that you're listening and that you're willing to take action right away, okay? So how soon do you want to be in Florida? Tell me everything about your move. When did you buy this home? What do you love about the neighborhood? What improvements have you done to it? Have you looked at any of the neighbors' houses? How long have you been thinking about making a move? What's important to you in choosing an agent? Literally, one of the best questions you can ask is, what are you looking for in an agent? Oh, well, we really want somebody to sell it for top dollar. Awesome. What does top dollar mean to you? Well, the Johnson's got 575. We really want to get 600. Okay, great. That starts to sound realistic. Well, we want to sell for $1 million. Okay, but what properties around here have sold for $1 million recently? Well, none, but our house is the nicest ever. You saw the gazebo in the backyard, right? Yeah, I saw the gazebo. It's pretty nice. So you're going to get a gauge of reality, right? You can also ask them, so how many agents are you going to interview before you make a decision? Oh, we're only interviewing you. Right? And so some of this can be done as a pre-qualification. Some of this will be done at the house. Some of it's going to be done at both times. Really, one of the arts of this is getting in rapport with your clients. So the quicker you can get them rolling on your page, the quicker you two can agree and develop rapport and start to move forward, the quicker you can move into your portion of the process. So ask them questions. One of the best questions I love to start with all interviews that I do with everyone is, do you have any questions that you want to make sure we address today? Is there anything just kind of like sitting in your head or in your heart that you want to make sure that we cover? Because what I don't want is I don't want them to have some burning desire that they want to ask, and they're sitting there the entire time like, I don't want to forget about that. I don't want to forget about that. And so as long as they say it up front and we make sure we come back around and we address it, we'll never have a problem there. So we ask them, look, what questions do you have? What are you looking for in an agent? What do you think is most special about your home? Do you think there's anything about your home that might be a hurdle that we have to overcome? Oh yeah, you know, the HOA is just kind of a nightmare. I mean, they go up like $100 every single year, and now we're at, you know, $500 a month, and it's crazy. They're probably going to have to do another special assessment, right? You want to find out what your hurdles are. You want to find out what your objections are going to be ahead of time. Is there anything in the house that I should know about that doesn't work or that's broken? Is there anything in the house that you want to keep with you, right? Because these light fixtures, they're going to stay. And so if they're going to convey with the property, then I need to know if I need to exclude them from the property in order to make sure that, you know, the buyer doesn't get emotionally attached to them. And by the way, we probably want to go ahead and remove them and replace them ahead of time, because if they're in here and a buyer sees them and they get really attached to them, and then you two are fighting over a chandelier, like that's going to be the world's most expensive chandelier. That's going to be a $25,000 chandelier that you just started negotiating over, which is not important. So let's go ahead and get that down. Let's get a different light fixture up that you don't mind, and then we'll go ahead and let the house convey, or the chandelier convey with the house. Okay, so now we've asked them a whole bunch of questions. We've figured out every motivation that they have. Why are they moving? Where are they moving to? Can we connect them with an agent where they're going? So if they're buying locally, what does that look like? Are we going to go identify that property ahead of time? Are we going to sell their house first? Are they going to rent for a while before they purchase? Are they going to move into a rental full time because maybe they're having a financial hardship? Can we get a referral fee from our friend in Florida who wants to be able to sell them a house? Do they need to buy before they sell? Will you be trying to do this concurrently, right? And deal with a sale and a purchase and close, you know, kind of at the same time. All of these details, as far as the logistics, are all going to go into your plan. They're all going to help your client feel comfortable and confident that you understand the entire process and that you're going to take care of every step along the way. Once you've gone through every scenario, every question, you've lined out all of their priorities, and you figure out every single detail of what's important to them in the process, then and only then is when you start to talk about yourself and how you're going to get this done for them. At that point, they're already going to love you. One of the clients that I got one of my favorite reviews ever is because I came over and I asked them a bunch of questions about their dogs. They had a couple of little dogs, and they were really loud and kind of aggressive when we came to the door. And I knew from looking around the house that these dogs were really important to these clients. And so I spent, 5 minutes talking about the dogs. What's the plan with the dogs, guys? Are they going to go in daycare? Are you going to take them out? Are they going to go stay with someone else for a little while we sell your home? How are we going to accommodate the dogs? Because this is going to be a really stressful process, not only for you, but also for the dogs. Well, they ended up writing in the review, they said literally the reason they hired me is because they knew that if I cared that much about what was going to happen with the dogs, then I would be able to do an excellent job taking care of them for the sale of the home. And so it's little things like that, right? What a lot of times agents will lose the deal on is they walk in the door and there's like little kids or there's dogs and the dogs are jumping on them, or God forbid there's a cat and the cat wants to like sit in your lap, and you're like dismissing the things they love. So if you don't acknowledge their children, if you don't say hi, what's your name? What do you like to do? If you don't build rapport with the kids, you're not going to build rapport with the parents. If you don't build rapport with the pets, you're not going to build rapport with the parents, because people love their children and their pets more than they love themselves, almost always. So go to the pets and the kids first, and then get to the adults after. It's a way to go through the things they love in order to build rapport. Okay. Gone through every possible scenario. We tell them we really care. We care so much. That's the biggest lesson. If you take nothing else away, deliver on the care, right? They have, in most cases, 10 or 20,000 other real estate agents that they could invite over to their home to work with. And they chose you for a reason. And so if you're there, you really need to care and take an honor in the fact that they're giving you this opportunity. This is an incredibly personal situation for most people, unless it's an investor and whatever, and they still want to know that you care. So make sure they know you care. Then they're going to want to talk about you. So simple, right? This is the easiest part that most people screw up. What you'll be tempted to do again is pull out your binder. You want to pull out your comps. You want to pull out your presentation. You want to pull out whatever the hell it is that you brought with you, and you want to slam it down on the table, and you want to let them take a look at it. Well, guess what? That's where you fail. So we want to build trust, right? We just spent all this time connecting with these people, and now we're going to take some presentation and we're going to put it down in front of us, and it's going to be a barrier in between our relationship. And so now they are immediately going to pick it up or stare down at it. And now you win or lose based on the quality of the presentation that you have in front of you. So whatever's on your iPad, whatever's on your notes, whatever's on your comps or your printout, that has to stand alone now, because it is now a barrier between your relationship. And so don't do that. Just don't pull anything out whatsoever if you can avoid it. If you can get the listing without anything regarding that, get the listing without it. You don't need it. So all you have to do is say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, it sounds like we've got a really great plan. We know you need to be in Florida. You need to be there ideally in the next 3 months. If we got you an offer in the next week, that would work for you. So we're going to go ahead and get started right away. We have a plan. We execute this play with every single seller, and it works. So here's what we're going to do. First of all, you and I are going to talk about the comps, and we're going to figure out the best price for your home. The second thing we're going to do is make sure that the home looks flawless. We want the house to look amazing top to bottom. Now, that doesn't mean I want you to go in and spend a bunch of money remodeling on things that you're not going to get an ROI on. But I do have some suggestions of things at the home that would make your house sell faster or possibly for more money. So we're going to go ahead and give you colors for paint. I need you to paint the entire house one color. We want you to go ahead and paint the front door because it's looking a little crusty. We want you to spruce up the landscaping a little in the front because first impressions are really important. And we want you to declutter the house as much as possible. I have a checklist. I'm going to send it over to you. It has like 5 pages and 100,000 things. Just know you don't have to do the entire checklist. Do the part that you're comfortable with. Skip the rest. We totally understand that you're busy. You've got 4 kids. You've got 2 dogs. I know you can't do it all. The more you do, the more money you're probably going to make. What we want to achieve is we want your home to be its best version of its current self. So if you've got that old kind of, faucet that's just looking a little crusty, maybe we want to go ahead and change it out, or maybe you just want to get the scrubber brush out and just scrub that thing super clean, right? We want to make sure that like that doorknob that's been broken for like 2 years and you've told your husband to fix like 100 times, now would be the time to go ahead and get that doorknob fixed, right? Because the buyer is going to come into your home and they're going to turn that doorknob and then they're going to be like, oh my gosh, if the doorknob's broken, like what else is broken in this house, right? The whole experience is kind of ruined. And so you want to get your head in the mindset of a buyer and you want to pretend you're getting out of the car, you're walking up to the front door, you see the brand new plants and flowers, everything looks really good, the fresh coat of paint on the front door looks awesome. And now we're going to go ahead and walk in the house, we're going to open the door and the doorknob works great. And every little detail as they experience the home is going to be flawless. It's going to be without any snags. Yes, the windows could probably be replaced. They're not brand new. But buyers will overlook those things if everything else looks good and nothing snags their eye. Have you ever been in a model home? And then they'll say, yeah, we've been in a model home before. Okay, so in a model home, they have like 4 things in the closet. They have everything perfect, right? They have the AC cranked down to like 65 degrees on a hot day. And so you want to create your home, and we're going to help you figure out a way to make your home like a model home. And so with that, we're going to declutter, we're going to add color, we're going to stage it. And when you're done doing your portion, we're going to come in and do our portion. And so we may add pillows, we may add rugs, in fact, we may decide to take all the furniture out and bring all our staging furniture in. Whatever is specific to the property that you're meeting with and talking about is what you're going to go over when you talk about your staging plan. So there's a couple pieces of the project, right? There's the part that they have to do on their own. Then there's the part that you guys are going to do together. Then when everything is perfect, we're going to get the photographer in, and the photographer is going to need a couple days lead time, and that's going to take him like 2 days to get the photos back, right? And so we need about a week to go ahead and get the property ready, and we need a couple more days to get the property photographed. Our photographer is really good. So what you don't want, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is you don't want that photographer that comes in and does such a good job that when the buyers show up at the property, they don't see a house that they saw in the pictures. You want really good photos, but you want really good, true to life photos. And our photographer is going to make sure that that happens. Then, because we're dealing with COVID and because you have a great house and there's all this natural light and all these other things, it looks good, we're going to get a 3D tour. We're going to get Matterport to come over here. We're going to get a 3D dollhouse. This is kind of what it looks like. You can pull it up on your computer, iPad, or phone. Say, have you ever seen those 3D models? Yeah, we're going to get one of those as well. And now, because of COVID, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that any buyer who wants to come see your house has viewed the 3D tour first, and we're going to have them send their pre-approval, and we're going to send them their COVID documents. In California, it's a PEAD form. We're going to make sure we get all of that stuff done ahead of time in order to streamline the process and make sure we're not bringing random strangers who aren't qualified into your home during COVID, right? We don't want any unnecessary foot traffic. Okay, so we're going to stage the home. We're going to prep it. We're going to get it ready. We're going to go ahead and get our final staging done. We're going to get the photographer out. We're going to get the Matterport out. And then we're going to put the house on the market on probably a Wednesday or a Thursday. To be completely honest, during coronavirus, COVID, post-world, whatever this is, it doesn't matter what day you put it on the market these days. It used to be put it on a Wednesday or Thursday and then restrict all the showings to the first weekend in order to have an open house and get as much traffic as possible. Kind of going the opposite way these days. And so now we want everyone pre-approved, and we don't want to create a zoo, and we don't want 1,000 people in the house at the same time. So we'll put the property on the market as soon as we have everything ready on our end. Photos, 3D tour, house looks great, etc. Are there going to be any restrictions on the times the home can be shown? So if it's a vacant home, or if they're really flexible, or if they can, they work from home and they can just jump out anytime they need, then maybe you leave the house available to be shown, as long as there's a little advance notice, 7 days a week, pretty much any time, easy to show, no big deal. Or you might have a situation where you've got children that are sleeping. They have nap time. You might have elderly people who have, some situation. You may have a doctor with a specific schedule. You may have people who they work at night and they sleep during the day. You never know what the life situation is going to be of the people who you're going to sell their house. So you really want to ask, what are the showing conditions going to look like? Do we need to get the dogs out of the house before we have the showings? Where are the dogs going? What does that all look like? And so if you can figure that out, then you can tell them, look, we're going to go ahead and put it right in the MLS. And we're going to say, this is what to expect when you're going to make an appointment to show the home. It can only be shown on Tuesdays or Thursdays between noon and 5 p.m. Or it can only be shown on weekends. Or it can only be shown mornings at 9:30 on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. You'd be surprised what some sellers will limit. And at this point, you just want to explain to them, we want to make it as easy to show as possible without letting any random people in here, and while still maintaining some control and some dignity of the process, right? And so if we can show it 24/7 as easy as possible, that's going to eliminate one more hurdle that buyers are going to have to jump through in order to come and see your home and write an offer. Okay. So we've established all of that. We've put it in the MLS. We know what the showing schedule is going to look like. And now we're going to say our expectation at this price point is that we're going to get 1 or 2 or 5 or 6 or 20 showings a day. It's going to be on the market for, if it's the lower the price, the faster it's going to sell. The higher the price, the longer it's probably going to take. If you price it under what it's actually worth, you're going to get about 5 to 10% more interest. And you can talk this all through with them, right? You can say, look, if I priced your home at $1, what would happen? And they're going to say, we wouldn't do that. You'd be like, no, I know you wouldn't do that. But if we priced your home at $1, what would happen? I'd be like, I don't know, we'd get a lot of interest, right? Yeah, we'd get a lot of interest. The news would call me, there'd be a helicopter circling, there'd be line down the door. It'd be crazy, right? Everybody would be like, oh my gosh, the crazy realtor just listed a house for $1. What's going on here, right? You can't undersell a home in this market. There's not enough homes for all the buyers. And so if we price your home at $1, or if your house was 600 and we price it at 550, we are going to guarantee that we get every single person that might remotely be interested in your home. And we are also going to guarantee that we get a whole bunch of people that weren't even thinking about it because they just saw it and they're like, wow, it's such a good deal. I have to take a look at that. That would be pretty good for our sales process, wouldn't it? And they'll be like, yeah, that actually would be pretty good. Okay, so I have about 100 examples in the MLS that I can email over to you, but we can both agree that if we price your house under market value, we're going to get every possible eyeball. Yes. Okay, awesome. So have you guys, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, have you ever been on Zillow? They're going to say yes, they've been on Zillow. In California, we have Redfin as well. So we talk about Zillow and Redfin. So have you ever noticed on Zillow or Redfin, especially Redfin, there's this thing called a hot home, or you can see on Zillow that the house has like 14,000 views and like 150 saves or 550 saves or whatever it is. And they'll be like, yeah, I've seen that before. Okay, cool. So really, really simple. The more views and the more saves it has, the more people looking online see it as a great opportunity. And the more they want to come see it because they know it's going to sell quickly. So if we price your home at $625 and it's worth $600, you're going to get like 100 views and you're going to get like no saves because everyone's going to look at it online and be like, it's overpriced. If we price it right or we price it under, right, then we are going to get every single person in the entire world. We're going to get all the views online and everyone's going to want to come see it in person. And if we can generate multiple offers, then we're going to be able to position your house to possibly sell for more money. So in a perfect world, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, wouldn't you like to have multiple offers, possible overbids, and ideally sell it for more than it's actually worth? And then they'll say yes, because everybody wants that. And you'll say, great. So I think the strategy should be to price it right or just under market value, but I'll price it as low as you want. If you want to go ahead and price it at $550, you want to create a circus, let's go for the circus. I'll get out my top hat and we'll get the lions and the tigers and the bears. We'll make the whole circus happen. No problem. And then they'll say, okay, that makes sense to me, right? And then you'll say, now I can't guarantee that we're going to get overbids or that we're going to sell it for more money. But what I will guarantee you is that if we get multiple offers for your property, we will have multiple parties interested in your home. So what usually will happen is the winner, right, no matter what they end up paying, the winner will feel like they won. And if the winner feels like they won, then they're going to be more interested during the process. It's going to keep them honest. And so if there's some repair issues, if there is, an appraisal issue, whatever happens along the transaction, they're going to know that they won and they're going to feel okay about it. And they're going to know that you have options to go back to, and you may have one or two backup offers that you can go back to and say, oh, you don't like it? You want to ask for a brand new roof? Guess what? We have 4 other people we can go back to. So we're not buying you a brand new roof. That's on you. If you want to buy a brand new roof for yourself for the next 30 or 50 years, go ahead and buy the brand new roof. They're going to be like, okay, that makes sense. Awesome. So I'm going to say, yeah. So here's the problem with overpricing. If we price it at $625, we're going to get no people interested on Zillow. Then we're going to have to drop the price to $615. We're still going to get no offers. It's going to be on the market for like 90 days. You're going to pay the mortgage month after month after month. Remember that $500 HOA you talked about? Yeah, so you're going to pay $500 and then $1,000 and then $1,500, and it might take 4 months, and we're going to end up at $2,000 in HOA. God knows how much in mortgage for a house that you don't want to live in because you decided you wanted to price it at $625 when we both know the house is worth $600. So let's just go ahead and price it at $595 or $590 or $600. We'll price it right. And then we'll guarantee that the house sells in a quicker amount of time for the appropriate market value. We know that if you price it at $625, you're going to need 2 or 3 price reductions. And at the end of that process, you are going to end up with one buyer. Only one. And so if you only have one buyer, that buyer is now in control of the entire process. If they decide halfway through the deal that they want to hit you up for some additional repairs or a credit, or they want to cancel or whatever it is, guess what? They're in charge. And so you don't want to be held hostage by the one buyer because you chose a pricing strategy that just doesn't work. You want to choose a pricing strategy that's going to get you into the best position to not only get the home sold the first time, but to actually get the home closed at the end of the escrow period. Does that make sense? And then they're going to say, yeah, that sounds like a really solid plan. Awesome. Okay. And you're going to say, great. So like we said, we're going to price it at, let's say $595, because you know the Johnson sold for $575, but that was like a year ago. Your house is a little bit nicer. You know, honestly, I think we might get 605 or 615, but I know that if we price it at $595, we'll get every single eyeball and it'll sell for exactly what it's worth. And they'll be like, wow, okay, that sounds like a good plan. So what do we have? We've got the price. We've got the staging, we've got the plan, we've got the photos, we've got the virtual tour, we know what repairs they're gonna do. We've literally nailed like every single thing in the process that we need to talk about, right? We didn't talk about commission, did we? No. Why? Because it doesn't matter. If they're willing to work with you and you charge what you charge, then the commission is irrelevant. And many times they won't even bring it up. So at the end, you just say, okay, great. So does that sound like a wonderful plan? And they'll be like, yeah. And they'll be like, awesome. Are there any other questions you have? And they're going to say, well, how long of a listing agreement do you want to assign for this? Like, you know, what's the next step? Like, we want to go ahead and get started. Okay, great. So I'm going to go home and I'm going to email you over a draft of the contract. You take a look at it. If you have any questions about it, let me know. I'm happy to walk you through the entire thing. If it looks good to you, I'm going to send it to you by DocuSign. You're going to click through the signatures. We'll get started right away. They're gonna be like, well, what about a listing period? Like, whatever you want. I do a minute-to-minute listing presentation, or listing agreement. And so if you decide by the time you wake up tomorrow that you wanna fire me, like, go ahead and fire me. I'm not gonna hold you hostage. Like, this is a partnership. We're here to work together to get your home sold. So if you decide in 2 days that you think I'm not doing my job, or you know everything I told you was a lie, then let's not work together. Like, that's totally fine with me. I'm gonna be like, okay, that sounds good. You know, I'll put 90 days on the paperwork, right? I think we already talked about this. It's probably going to take about 2 weeks to sell. We'll have the whole thing done in about 45 days. But let's just go ahead and put 90 days on the paperwork just in case. And we'll go from there. Is that okay? And they're like, no. You said sell fast. Let's just do 30 days. Okay, great. Let's do 30 days. Worst case, we have to extend the paperwork. It's not a big deal. Listing periods are only for agents that are not confident that they're actually going to get the job done. A 6-month listing is for a weak agent. A 6-month listing is for a weak agent. You don't need a 6-month listing, not in this market. If you're in a heavy buyer's market and it's gonna take you a year to get the house sold, then yeah, go ahead and sign a 6-month agreement, sign a 1-year agreement. The reality is, I tell clients all the time, I'm like, if we're gonna do this, I'm probably not gonna wanna work with you for 6 months, to be completely honest. You're gonna be pissed off, I'm gonna be pissed off. Like, let's just go ahead and sign the 90-day agreement. And if we don't get it sold in 90 days, we need to sit down and reevaluate our plan because something is not working. Okay. Next step, they're going to say, okay, great. So we signed a 1-month agreement or a 90-day agreement. You said I can cancel anytime. Yeah, you can cancel anytime, not a problem. And they'll say, okay, great. So we've eliminated all those problems or whatever. And then they're going to ask the last question, if they ask it at all, which is, how much do you charge? What's the commission? How much can I expect to pay in fees? Things like that. And you're going to say, great, glad you asked. I charge X. And then you're just going to stop talking. So whether you charge 7%, 6%, 5%, 4%, 20%, whatever it is, you can just say, I charge X. Most people, if they're really bought into you by that point, they won't haggle with you. Worst case, they'll feel like they need to ask for a discount, and you can always say no. So if they say, oh, well, you know, Joey said he'd do it for 5%. Okay, great. Well, did you like his plan? No, you want to work my plan? Okay, well, my fee is 6%. This is how it works. And then you can tell them, look, I keep 3.5% because we do the staging, we do all this other stuff, we pay for the photography, we get the Matterport, blah, 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 right? You build in your value proposition. So we keep 3.5%. The buyer's agent, you know, they just have to bring a buyer over here. Now, some buyer's agents get really mad when they don't get paid the same as the listing agent, but guess what? They're in control of their commission too. So on the buy side, you can negotiate that the buyer come out of pocket and pay you whatever you want. So in addition to the 2.5% or 3% or 4% that's being offered in the MLS, you can say that the buyer has to pay you 1%, and that'll be a total of 5%. Like, you can negotiate it on the buy side any way you want. So we say, look, the MLS average right now, if you go pull up 100 homes around this, they're all offering on average 2.5%. So we're going to offer 2.5%. Or if you have to take a discount for some reason because they have to have some kind of discount, you can say, okay, well, I guess we can offer the buyer's agent 2%, but this is the impact of what's going to happen when we do that. And you're possibly going to get less buyer's agents who are going to be interested in it. They may feel like they got a little cheated on their commission. It's up to you. I know one of our mentors charges 2.4 or pays 2.4% instead of 2.5%. So the industry standard is 2.5. He pays 2.4. Why? Well, he figured out that 0.1% for his business, because he sells a lot of houses, that was worth like $150,000 to his bottom line at the end of the year. You think any buyer's agents in an ultra low inventory market where they can't find a home for their buyer, do you think they're going to stand up on their soapbox and get pissed off because they got 2.4 instead of 2.5? But if it put an extra $150,000 in your pocket, would you do it? Right? And so this is where you get to earn your money, right? First of all, they may not even ask. And if they don't even ask, just go home, put in your commission in the agreement, send it over, and get them to sign it. It's not an objection. They're willing to pay. People walk into Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom, all these high-end retailers. They walk in every single day and they don't negotiate the price on anything. They just pay the sticker because they have the money. They like the experience. The reason somebody shops at Neiman Marcus or Bloomingdale's or any of these places is because they value the experience and they value the luxury. And so they're willing to pay extra for it, right? A $500 sweatshirt at Neiman Marcus costs no more money than a $50 or $20 sweatshirt at H&M or Forever 21, right? But the experience is completely different. The quality is completely different. They're willing to pay for that stuff. Now, if they get into an argument or they want to start to hit you up for your commission and they want to negotiate it, or let's just say you want to take a different approach. Let's say you want to avoid it altogether. You want to hit this up front. You don't want to wait till the end. You have a totally different style and you just want to address the commission thing head on. I'll end with this. And this is one really great strategy that my mentor, Dan Beer, taught, which is 4 different types of commissions. So you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, are you familiar with our flexible commission schedule? And they'll be like, no, because they're not, right? And you're like, awesome, let me tell you about it. So we have a flexible commission schedule, and this is how it works. If we put the sign in the yard and all of a sudden one of your neighbors comes running over and says, oh my gosh, Nancy, I can't believe you're selling your house. I have to buy it. I have cash right now. Sell it to me. Like, why'd you list with an agent? I told you I wanted to buy it. Like, whatever. Okay, so that happens, right? Just cancel the agreement with us. I already told you it's minute to minute. It's not a big deal. Sell it directly with Nancy. We won't be involved. You'll pay us 0. That's step 1. That's option 1. Option 2, let's say Nancy or somebody from church says, hey, I really want to buy it. And you find the buyer, but you still want us to represent you, because of the paperwork and the liability and all that stuff. Well, we'll represent you for 2%. So pay us 2%. So it's either 0 if you want to do it on your own. It's 2% if you want us to take care of the paperwork for you, but you find the buyer. There is a scenario in which we might find the buyer. So it happens, 1 out of 10 times or, 2 out of 40 times, whatever it ends up being. Occasionally we do find the buyer and we are very proactive. And so if we're representing the buyer and you, I don't think it's fair that you pay a full commission. What do you think? They'll be like, yeah, I don't think that's fair either. Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and represent the buyer and yourself for a total of 4% commission. Is that fair? Yeah, that sounds really fair. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So the last thing is what's probably going to happen. So out of 100 transactions, 95, 97 of them are probably going to work this way. Your buyer is going to come in the back seat of another agent's car, or they're going to meet here at the property and another agent is going to represent them. And so we already kind of talked about that, right? If another agent represents them, it's going to be a 6% commission. I keep 3.5% for everything that we do on the listing side, including all of our marketing. And we offer 2.5% to the buyer's agent for a total of 6%. So the 4 scenarios that we have in our flexible commission schedule are: you kick us out of the deal, you sell it yourself, 0. We represent you, but you find the buyer yourself from church or your network or whatever it is, and we take 2% on that. If we find the buyer directly and we represent both sides, it's 4%. And if we have another agent involved, like is probably going to happen, it's 6%. Does that sound fair? 0, 2, 4, 6. And the way that breaks down is 97% of the time, you get the 6%. Occasionally, you represent the buyer, right? 1 out of 50 times or whatever it ends up being. If you list a lot of properties, you'll double end more properties. But whatever, let's say it's 1 time out of 10 or 2 times out of 10. You'll get 4%. So you actually end up with more money that way. The other time, right, you get 2% where they find the buyer themselves. Well, guess what? That happens 1 out of 1,000 times at scale. It never, ever, ever happens. So don't worry about it. It's never going to happen. And if it does happen, you still get 2%. Who cares? And the 0, the times you get fired, look, you wanted to be fired anyway. You do not want to hold a seller hostage. You do not want to work with a seller that doesn't want to work with you. And it eliminates, because every seller has this fear in the back of their brain that they're going to hire an agent, they're going to put the sign in the yard, and all of a sudden their best friend is going to decide they want to buy the house without an agent involved, which never, ever, ever happens. But it eliminates that fear and it lets you take the listing. So I hope this was super helpful for you guys. If you have specific questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, I try and never pull anything out of my briefcase unless I absolutely need it. And we go through this same exact process with every single seller that we meet with. And as long as they know you have a concrete plan on exactly how you're going to handle the situation, and you have a timeline, and you're taking into account their needs and what's important to them and their kids and their pets and where they need to move, and that you're going to quarterback the entire deal, everything I just went over today should handle 90, 95% of it. And there's tons of great training on taking listings available through our partners, through Dan Beer, Kyle Whistle, through Jay Kinder, Honey Badgers, EXP, you name it. There's 100 different trainings. So go take as many listing trainings as you can. If you want to be successful in this business, you will master the art of taking listings. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.